Everyone, if you would mute your mics, please, if you are joining us via Zoom. Madam Chair, we now have a quorum. If you'd like to begin the meeting at 6:03.
I will call the meeting at 6:03. Madam Clerk, if you could do the roll, please.
PAC Committee Member Francesca Normington.
Here.
Thank you. Rosemary Chora. Jeff Arbor. Vicky Fernandez.
Present.
Dean Fisher.
Here.
Daniel Baum. Cindy Brenneman. Annette Watson. Vice Chair Michael Toe.
Here.
And Madam Chair Sue Lester.
Here.
Thank you. Oh, Rosemary's joining, Madam Chair.
Excellent.
Yes, I will have Scott go ahead and introduce our YC League guests. Public comments.
Hospitable. Cheers. I don't know if that's loud, that's why I asked.
Yes, absolutely. So, good evening, Supervisor. It is, welcome. Thank you. That's better. So it is, my pleasure to introduce you to our two YSEALI fellows. YSEALI stands for Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative. And these are fellows that come from Southeast Asia, and they're staying with us for 4 weeks to learn about sustainability practices and solid waste management practices. These are young professionals back in their country, and they are lucky enough to, or fortunate enough to be selected as they get like 1,000 applications for this program, and it's funded by the U.S. State Department, and they bring, I think, about 30 fellows, and they find a host all over the United States, usually cities, but I think some special districts are involved, mostly cities, and the fellows will stay with those host agencies, not only learn about best practices, but one of the best part about the program is that we learn from each other, we learn from each other's cultures, which is great. So obviously we take them on to all the exciting adventures here in Southern California, like Hollywood, Disneyland, San Diego, that fun stuff. And we learn about them. So I'd like to introduce you to Qua. Qua is from Vietnam, and then Jasmine is from the Philippines. And they just arrived here last weekend, so they'll be with us 4 weeks. They'll be in the United States for 6 weeks, but with us 4 weeks.
Welcome on behalf of the CAC. Honor to have you. So welcome. Do we have any public comments online or?
Madam Chair, we did receive written public comments from Mr. Jim Mosher that was disseminated to the CAC for your review.
I would like to just thank him. And close public comments. And then we can move on to our first item. The Joint Citizen Advisory Committee and Board of Directors. July 12, 2023. Ask them any comments. Okay. Member Brenneman. Sorry.
Okay, there we go. Yes, regarding the minutes, I did read them and then I went back and reread them after we were sent the additional comments from public comments regarding our minutes. And there is a discrepancy about the your request, Chair Lester, to review upcoming events to see how we could get involved and how we might be able to aid in those. And that did not show up on an agenda. So I just want to make sure that that gets put on an agenda. But other than that, I thought that the minutes were very concise, including my showing up a minute late, which I will never do again. So I would have a motion to approve with that addition.
Second,
Second.
aye. All those opposed? We're good. Comment and then maybe move. Let's move on to item number 2, Board of Directors term limit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this item was discussed on July 12th of this year as a joint meeting between the Board of Directors and the Citizen Advisory Committee. And the direction given to the Citizen Advisory Committee was to continue the discussion of possibly implementing term limits for the Board of Directors. Since our meeting on July 12th, staff did provide you with some additional information to consider, which is in your staff report. That additional information, one was there was a request from the Citizen Advisory Committee to know when is the deadline to file for the ballot initiative. And for the primary election on March 5th, the deadline is to submit the notice on October 26th of 2023. Now, in our staff report, we did say that the Secretary of State has not released a deadline for the November 5th general elections calendar. But however, according to Mr. Mosier's comments that he submitted earlier today, according to election codes, usually they set the deadline 88 days before the election day. So he believes that deadline for the general election will be Friday, August 9th, 2024. And then other piece of information from the staff we wanted to share with the Citizen Advisory Committee is there was comments made on the July 12th meeting about lucrative compensation packages that board directors, elected officials receive. I did want to bring to your attention, and it's in your attachment, the benefits that all the governing agencies that services Costa Mesa. So that is the City of Costa Mesa, the City of Newport Beach, Mesa Water District, Costa Mesa Unified School District, Irvine Ranch Water District. All those 5 agencies we surveyed, in addition to their compensations, their benefits. And as you'll notice, all of them do receive health benefits. Some receive retirements. Some also have long-term disability. But when you look at our board of directors, the only benefits they receive is compensation. Then lastly, there was a comment about incumbents, challengers. You know, how often are incumbents challenged during elections? And that is also attached in your staff report. Staff did some research, went on the OC Register of Voters, looked at the past 11 elections back to, I think, year 2000. And you can see the names of the incumbents as well as the challengers. And I believe there were approximately 5 out of the 11 elections. There were at least one incumbent would have been reelected because there was not enough challengers to challenge their seat. So that information is before you as well. You also have in the financial section, which we described you on July 12th, the cost to have these special elections. Also information from the July 12th meeting as well, as far as how many other special districts have term limits. That's also provided to you. But this is an opportunity if you want to make a recommendation to the board. The board we're going to post this on the agenda at the end of September for their consideration. So if the CSE wants to make a recommendation, tonight's the night.
Anybody have any questions? President Schaefer?
Just clarify. Chart that it was mixed with the governance like the compensation. 1770 a month. Just be clear that that's not a standard amount. We're not paid a monthly salary. We are paid what's called a stipend per meeting. So if we go to 2 meetings, we're certainly not, under the health and safety code, we get compensated for 6 meetings per month. And I can go to 4 meetings in one day. It's still only 1 meeting that I get compensated. So this is kind of misleading to think that we automatically get 1770. We don't. It's all based on the number of meetings you go to, up to a total of 6.
On different days.
Correct.
And that isn't something that always happens, and it'll also be stated that the board of directors will sometimes go to more than 6 meetings on 6 different days. A 9, they may go to 7, they may go to 12. They're only compensated for up to 6, which would be many of the directors who attend.
Can you remember Rosemary Drive has a?
Rosemary?
Hi, can you hear me? I'm gonna assume that was a yes. I can see you, Scott. So if you can hear me, would you not? Perfect.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this issue since our last meeting. And I'm sort of the thinking that if it's not broken, why fix it? It seems that we have regular elections and our community is re-electing the incumbents. So I just feel like the district seems to be well-run. And of course, you could increase benefits for the board to make it more competitive, to have more people running, or to invest more in elections, to be successful in these elections. But I would rather see that money invested either in the district or specifically with the staff. And I also think that if our incumbents keep running for re-election and are involved and invested in our district and our community, more power to them. I really am grateful for the work that they do. So I think that's where I'm going with it, especially when it comes to needing to get term limits. I think it's an artificial deadline to say, well, you've been here X number of terms, you've got to get out, especially when the community is voting them in. And I would imagine over time they've picked up a lot of experience, expertise, and a lot of relationships with other electeds in our community and in our region. Thank you.
Thank you. Relating to this topic.
I'll be honest with you, I was thinking. But Mr. Mosier makes some really good points, and I read through his analysis, and I guess I'm more in favor of. I don't know. I think that I think that there isn't any mechanism that would where that perhaps a survey or something might be thrown out to the general public just to get some feedback, but absent in that, I don't think there's a voice that would make that change out there, and maybe that change might.
Yeah, so same thing. I read everything, and I actually highly recommend that everybody take a look at the article that was referenced called "What Term Limits Do That Ordinary Voting Cannot." There's a lot of schools of thought on this, and yes, that's the institutional knowledge is the clout that has is invaluable, and I think that that's something that needs to be considered. But I also think that other people have great ideas, and it would be great to get new people circulating new ideas. You kind of liken it to, sorry, don't take this wrong, Mike, but stagnant water. Water needs to circulate, right? We're the water district. Water needs to circulate to keep fresh and to keep, clean. So it's just, I don't think that term limits need to be like 2 terms. I think that again, the institutional knowledge that we have, especially on this water board, is invaluable. But I also think that there are other people that might want to run that get discouraged because they know that they think they don't have a chance because of the name recognition that our incumbents have, especially the ones that are currently serving. But
I'm sorry.
sorry, she wants to weigh in also, but yeah, she wants to weigh in also, but I'm not gonna let her. So anyway, I think that I think this needs some more thought and some more discussion. I don't know what the term limits should be. I mean, I know that the boards that I have served on in the past, when there's been a term limit that was like a year or 2 years, sometimes you feel like you're just getting your feet wet and you're just getting to learn what it is you're supposed to know and how you can really make a difference and how you can impact something and how you can help. And then all of a sudden you're termed off. So, you know, in that case, term limits aren't great, but I think they have a place, and I think that this is a place for them.
Comments, and then I just want to point out that you said water, but I know that you meant sanitary
sorry.
district, so I just.
Yeah. Sorry.
Meant, but. just,
I'm
you
involved
know,
with water too.
Want you to know we're listening in case that was.
Then,
Does anybody else have any comments or?
General comments here before, any other thought or round of questions or comments, just that, if there was body or by the board itself on term limits, that the November election, November 20 turnout is the best option. Delaying a decision too long into if that hypothetical gives those who would be interested less time to consider, running and the process of Mayor of Los Angeles or anything like that. But still, you would want to afford that time, just timing of the discussion and any. But my point is, there's still time, but at the same time, you want to afford them out running rather than say waiting until August of next year. Documentation to. That was just some general thoughts as opposed to.
I would like to thank staff for all the information. You did a lot of work here and it definitely helps to better educate us on what we're discussing, because I know for myself personally, I knew there would be a cost involved with term limits, and putting on a ballot initiative or having, the district do it. If it's going to happen, it should be the district that does it. There's no private party that I know of that is going to take the time or spend the money. Quite honestly, I don't think enough people pay attention to the sanitary district as should, but then that could be a good thing because they're not mad. I would also like to thank Mr. Mosier for his comments, and that 47-page article, although lengthy, was packed with information, and it's a great tool if you're on the fence, if you haven't had a chance to read it, to look, because it really does present all the pros and cons of both from a variety of viewpoints. And it was a pretty powerful piece of information considering it was from 1998, but the last 6 pages are all the people who contributed to it. So I appreciate that very much. I do have one question about retirement contributions for Costa Mesa Sanitary District, because I'm sure there's a reason for it. It's $1 a month. So why is that?
Unfortunately, I don't have a straight answer because I knew that question was going to happen. And as we research, we way back. when-
He'll know. I bet he'll know. President Schaefer, if you can enlighten us.
Remember a few things. So several years ago, proposal came to the district to do a deferred compensation type retirement program. And the employee that I can't think of the name of the organization that we even contribute to, but the stipulation from them for our employees to be eligible for this, every employee had to participate. And as directors, we are considered employees. So the board opted to be part of it so that all the other employees could be part of it with a minimum contribution of $1 a month.
Okay, that makes sense.
We're just placeholders in the
I
program.
need to correct for Schaefer, I'm sorry, but direct boarders are not considered employees. And
No, we know that, but that's the stipulation from the people who put that program together. If you remember right, they called us and said we had to be involved as employee. Under their guidelines, we were called it.
again, I don't recall that. I know board directors are employees, but happened way back when.
Can we just look into that? Because, I
Like,
mean,
I don't know if I
I'm-
have any records of it. It happened like 10 years ago.
Scott, it had to do with us receiving a 1099.
I'm sure there's a reason for it.
Or we
And
don't-
that's why it's there,
W2.
obviously. So,
We get W-2s on our contributions, so that was all part of the negotiation for that deferred compensation thing.
okay, well, it's not a significant amount, but it's
Yeah.
on there.
Like,
And it was on there for a reason, and I thought it warranted the actual question. Personally, I am in favor of term limits for any elected body. I can understand, well, if it's not broken, don't fix it. It's not broken right now, but we may end up with people in office where it is broken. And I've seen that, and this is just my personal opinion and my experience from what I've seen happen to this city with different elected bodies and what happens at, a national level, a state level. I think it's important to keep things moving and to keep new ideas coming in. I do think general election is the only way to go in terms of financial making the most sense. Yes, it's a lot of money, but with anything, if you're making an investment in the future and what's to come, there's going to be some kind of investment there. I think it was Director Eccles that said at the last meeting that if we did a survey, he's pretty sure most people, if they were asked the question, do you think there should be term limits? Most people would probably say yes. I think he's correct. Would a survey be a bad thing? Not necessarily, but do we have the time for that if we're going to get this done in a reasonable length of time? I would, we have to vote on this, right?
Well, you don't, it's up to you. If you want to, want to send a motion and make a recommendation, to the board, it's up to you.
I would like to make a motion that Dickie, go ahead.
I'd like to make a comment here, and that's that, we're talking about putting term limits on a board, and we seem to be in favor of it. And I just want to remind everybody that 2 meetings ago, we all voted to not have term limits on ourselves. And I just see that as a little bit hypocritical. If we're going to put term limits, let's be consistent and put those term limits on us as well.
That's a fair analogy, for sure. I personally see it a little bit different in that a CAC member is appointed by a board and they can be removed at any time.
I just think that the optics,
But I see what you're saying, for sure.
reading, I said, you see a board that said, we are not gonna have term limits, but hey, you guys are gonna have them. Doesn't look good.
I see what you're saying. And if that's what it takes for people to be in favor of term limits for board members, I would have no problem with term limits for CAC members. I really wouldn't. In fact, I think that was kind of part of my argument that I made about the CAC having term limits is elected officials don't even have term limits. So I would have no problem with that at all. I do think it's a little different, but I agree with you. If you look at terms of what's fair and the optics of it, I would have no problem with that. But I'm just one person. So
What are we
Anybody else?
trying to- We're talking about just term limits, or we're talking about the length of those term limits, or are we talking
Well-
about compensation, or The above.
This is let me make a motion and that might help
Okay,
that.
all right.
I was gonna make a motion that we pursue the avenue of creating term limits for the board in terms of election. And as we move forward through that process, if that's something the board wishes to consider, those would be the details that would be included in the making of the term limits. Minimum of 2, probably 3 is what I would think, but I'm not including that at this point because why include term limits on something we don't even know if they're going to do it. But I think we should encourage the board. My 8,000 word motion is let's start over. I would like to make a motion that the board continue to pursue term limits for the board of directors. But, I mean, second. Okay. All those in favor? Oh, do we have another question, comment? Okay.
I had my hand up and part of it was I didn't understand your motion, but you've already restated, so I'm clear now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry for that first one. It was a little messy. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Rosemary? Good.
I'm opposed.
So is this for the CAC and the board members or just the board members?
This, well, if you, I mean,
Motion is for the board of directors.
it's for the board of directors. But if you want to make a substitute motion that if we pursue,
Contingent on us being also subject to term limits.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm okay. The seconder is.
Okay.
is-
So let me restate that. So I'm gonna change my motion to include that if the board is willing to pursue term limits for the board members, we can also impose term limits on the CAC as well to keep it universal or same, fair, however you want to word it. Consistent. Thank you very much. Okay, so I made the motion based on your change.
I'll still second.
You second. Okay. All those in favor to move it forward to the board. All right. No, she did not approve. Yeah. Francesca? Are you with us? Francesca? We need your vote.
Francesca, if you'll unmute your phone, please.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, okay. There, I'm sorry. I was talking. Yes, I approve.
And Rosemary, if you would just please confirm your vote.
Vote no on that second motion.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have 5 yeses, 1 no, 1 abstention. Okay. Next item.
Madam Chair, may I make a request that we move item number 4 up on the agenda?
Absolutely. Item number 4 is to discuss the draft questions for the 2023 community survey. Now, was this the survey that was sent out to all of us? No, that's the other survey. Okay.
So Madam Chair, so yesterday, the board of directors directed myself to sign an agreement with Pawlowski Research to conduct a community-wide survey We're going to survey about 1,000 of our residents, and we're going to ask them questions about our services. We're going to ask questions specifically about SB 1383 regarding the third cart, specifically like if they are have 2 times a week collections, and if they are they, how much are they willing to pay for that? So that kind of information is very valuable to us, so we can give that to the board of directors so they can adopt policies and give us directions. So what we're looking from the Citizens Advisory Committee tonight is give us some suggestions. What kind of questions would you like to recommend to the board to consider for the survey? I do have Adam Pawlowski here today. If you want to ask him any questions, or you want to ask how he's going to conduct the survey, he can have questions. We've done work with him in the past. I think he's done several surveys for us. Quality work. We're looking for your input on what type of questions you want to.
Have in terms of new items that you think should be added or things that didn't work. Well, and then you may hit some of the things that we're thinking or have questions about, and then we can pull the questions to the end, unless it's easier for you if somebody has something that they, chime in at a time or something like that.
Sure. Adam Pawlowski, President of Pawlowski Research, happy to be here. What as Scott was saying, really what we're looking for, what I'm looking for, and I think what staff would appreciate is concepts, ideas. I don't necessarily need formulated questions, but just things that you think are really important to ask related to the subject matter would be super helpful. And I'll take notes, and I think we're being recorded, so I can get the transcript later, and we'll make sure we're responsive to that. There's dozens of questions. I think some of them are going to be very specific, like, satisfaction with services, to kind of give a baseline of where we're at and moving forward and track over time. But for the most part, we're going to talk about behavioral change is what this is about. Multiple carts, we're talking about multiple days, we're talking about costs. So those are things that we're going to definitely build into the survey. And just for foundational purposes to understand how we do this, we do a multi-mode survey. As you can imagine, the last 95 things you have done on this, it was probably something like this, not like this. And so we essentially meet the public, your ratepayers, where they are as far as communication goes. So a chunk of them will talk to us on the phone because that's how they prefer to communicate, including some on their landlines. A very slim group of them, but some still talk on their landlines. Most of the people we talk to on the phone will be on mobiles, but most of the people that respond to the survey will be online. So either responding to a text or an email, and we may discuss the option of mail as well with staff. But the key to it will be, it'll be statistically valid and representative of your ratepayers, very specifically, and very specifically the type of ratepayer, because I think we're eliminating certain kinds of like limiting apartments and things like that who get. We'll be very responsive to that, to be essentially dead on accurate to the demographics of the ratepayers we're trying to reach. But really open for feedback and ideas for how you, things that you think are critical to include. Answers you're really looking for, or the question.
Start out, talk about, I know we have a couple of timelines in the agenda. Talk about the timelines now that to develop the survey, the timeline in which it'll run from, so that it fits in between when we'll eventually get the presentation of the results in early November, and then the board at the end of November.
Yeah, so we're going to be quick about our business, and based on what I've seen from staff, they're going to be very quick about this. So I think we're set to come back with like the 27th or something.
Yes, so we'll be getting recommendations from the board at the end of this month, and then we'll start the process immediately, and it'll be ready for presentation in November to the board and to the CAC.
I mean, I guess we'll be in the field for sometime between a week and depending on some modes, maybe 3 or 4. Very, very quick, and very appropriately timed, very tip.
Do you have a sense of how many questions maximum you're, within this? Long, and you're trying to use year after year as a baseline.
I think admin could probably speak better on number of questions, but we have put a limit of 20 minutes to complete the survey.
That's 20 minutes, both electronic. Well, on the phone, you just never know.
Yeah, it would be 20 minutes regardless of mode.
Have some comments for us or question?
I do. Is it my turn to speak? The sound is cutting in and out.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. I would be interested in questions that differentiate customer service between the district and the district staff versus the hauler and the service provided by the hauler. So missed pickups, litter, juice coming out of the back of the truck, whatever it is. So customer service between those two organizations. And then also when it comes to 1383, obviously it's a regulation that has a variety of components that the district is required to implement. So the questions that are coming out of this regulation, I would also like connected to the I guess the environmental reason that these regulations were promulgated in the first place. So, do you value reducing greenhouse gases or minimizing the impact to climate change? Because I think sometimes people get really upset that, oh my gosh, I have a third cart or my trash rates are going up, but they also value the environmental benefit that's associated with these regulations, but they may not always make that connection. So I would like to learn more about what the community thinks about some of the reasons behind this regulation and the environmental ones in particular. Thank you.
Anyone else with any comments or questions? Dean?
Yeah, I don't know if it was asked in the. Okay, but just how familiar are the citizens with that regulation? Have they heard about it? Do they know that? Oh, the reason why we're doing the 3 cart.
I would be interested in seeing the first question asked, like, do you know who your trash hauler is? Because I don't think a lot of people realize, multifamily units, single, I don't think that people realize that other people get things different than what they get. As long as their trash gets picked up, maybe they don't even care in some situations. But I think it would be good to ask people, like, who picks up your trash, and see if they even know. I was also curious if somebody, because it is it says on here, it's roughly a 19-minute survey. If somebody starts the survey but does not complete it, are you able to capture the information that they did answer, or is it an all or nothing thing? Because 20 minutes for me to take a survey about this doesn't seem like it's very long. But I mean, try to get anybody to do anything and tell them it's going to take 20 minutes is kind of like pulling teeth sometimes. So I didn't know if you had the capability of capturing whatever it is they did answer.
We do have capability of capturing it, but we don't tend to include those sample because we want to have, in this case, we're contracted for one.
Okay.
So, and those 1,000 completed surveys are fully reflective demographically and geographically. So there isn't a need, quite frankly, to include. And those, so we wouldn't tend to include them.
Okay, so you keep going until you get 1,000, essentially. Okay, that answers that question. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Everything that came up so far was great, so thank you.
Aside from the questions related to knowledge of the district, level of service for CR&R, not just the customer service. Questions related to sewer service and trash, or any other kind of bigger. I don't know. I guess I'm leaning towards Prop 218, any revenue, nothing is going to be touched up, just really on the level of service as well as the 3-card systems. Just
Anybody else?
It'd be interesting to hear if people know how much they're paying for the service. I mean, unless they look at the property tax bill every year, I bet they don't know how much they're paying to get their revenues picked up.
that is, I think that's a reference, right? There's a reference in the previous survey to those costs. So at some point, they're like, oh, so that's what it comes up. And then that prompts the, I guess, the response to the question.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. I think we're good. Thank you, Adam. So we'll circle back around to item 3, removal of trash containers policy.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So we're taking into consideration when the district does implement the 3-cart system. We're going to assume some property owners going to report back they don't have enough storage space for the 3-cart system. So the board of directors had concerns about the current code, our code for storing public carts in public view. So the board directed staff to look at our current code, see if there's any chance of revising it to give staff some flexibility or some way to give people an exemption to store their carts in public, lack of storage. And so as staff was researching this, we did find that, the code, which is in your staff report for storing trash containers in public view. But then we also know there is on section B, there is a hardship exemption. So people could apply for a hardship saying, hey, I don't have enough space to store my carts. Can I get a hardship exemption where our code enforcement officer would go out there and actually inspect the property and determine, is there a hardship? Where they store it on this? Maybe they store it on the side. It's still technically in public view, but maybe he can give, fully be on his discretion. So we did find that we did create a hardship waiver form, which is attached to your staff report. So what we're seeking from the Citizen Advisory Committee tonight is that, is this suffice? Or do you believe is there any kind of other revisions we should make to the policy to recommend to the board to make changes to the existing policy to give staff some more discretion on when we determine a cart is in public view or not?
So process wise, when this would occur, a notice on the bin,
No, so let's
on the
say,
person's residence?
so if we get the waiver form, the hardship waiver, the code enforcement officer will inspect the property. And if he determines, yes, it does approve.
But the thing that prompts the waiver first is they're not, if the code enforcement's not gonna know whether or not it needs a waiver, so there has to be a notice placed. And then that resident would then, that notice would also have to include not only the code enforcement violation, also the
Yes,
waiver in the process, and this is where you go, this is what you would do to find that, if you want to seek that out. And then that resident's coming upon. Yes. Grant that, and then that becomes. That notification first before you can get the.
exactly. And once that waiver is approved, then he or she will have documentation that next time they come up that property, they'll have documentation, oh, yes, that house has a waiver. So where those trash cars are stored is fine.
So they can still find themselves getting a notice by another code enforcement officer, and then they would have to show the
Oh.
approved.
We only have one code enforcement officer. But,
Yeah.
but if the officer, yes, if the officer is on, let's say he's on vacation and we have someone else taking his place, yes, then
In that instance, that's why they have the documentation.
so-
Otherwise, it's already documented. They don't have to worry about it.
Rosemary?
I had a question. So the district has the code enforcement officer, not the city. So is it possible that you could exempt the, like, say, homeowner or property person from putting their carts away, but that the city still has issue with the carts being out?
you know, that's a good question. That's something we'd have to explore further. I thank you for bringing that to our attention. That's why we have these meetings, so you can bring this to our attention. That's a very good point. We will definitely have to consult with the city on that one. Thank you.
Great question. I think there is a city code about dumpsters in, visible and or regular trash cans. And I believe, don't they have to get a permit for a dumpster to be in front of their house for any certain length of time? I know when I did it, I did. So that could kind of fold into that. That's an excellent question. I hadn't even thought of that. I think you need this form. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory and direct. I think the difficult part is going to be on the code enforcement person with all the crazy situations that are going to come up and the excuses people are going to have as to why they can't store their trash cans. And it could be something as simple as they converted their garage into a living space and they don't have a backyard because their house is giant on, a small lot and they don't have anywhere to put it, which they would have if they didn't have a big house, but power to the code enforcement guy is all I can say. But Mark? Anybody else? Rosemary? Rosemary, go ahead.
Thank you. I also wanted to add, it may be beneficial to look into different cart sizes. I know that they have multiple carts up in Northern California, and in some of those cities, including like San Francisco, they have really tight yards and tight properties. And they seem to be making this happen. So I do know that like a 36, 96 or 64, whatever the cart sizes are, there may be mini carts, not necessarily Slim Jims. I know in some cities that there are sharing of bins and carts and sharing of accounts, and there's all sorts of things that have occurred to ensure that the third cart system is fully functioning and a robust program within that city. So I just would hope that we would consider those options also for customers that may not have room. Thank
Yes.
you.
Good, another good suggestion. And yes, different sizes will be available. 30 gallons, 64 gallons, 90-gallon carts would be available to residents if they so choose so.
I was just gonna just follow up again on conversations with the city regarding their ordinance, I don't know if that's an item for the liaison committee group or not, but have a conversation about the ordinances. And then also what I was touching upon before, not necessarily the waiver document, but whatever initially gets posted by code enforcement, that it's inclusive of language that clearly defines that the waiver program, so people understand the options that they have. And then I don't know if when you're talking about some decisions maybe homeowners make that may limit the space that they have, I don't know if there's an additional policy or there's that help you discern what is eligible for a waiver. Or if you just, it's better to have that flexibility.
Yeah, I think we want to have that
And
flexibility, get that discretion.
Case by case.
The last comment I would like to make is I would like to see the district's code enforcement be in charge of enforcing the district customers and let the city code enforcement enforce their trash customers or their solid waste customers. But I know the district serves everybody with sewer, so I don't really know if that's an argument, but it's a thought. The city isn't often in line with what other entities are doing. They kind of are rogue. Second, because we can go close that item out and move to committee member comments. Let's just start with, let's just go around the room. We'll start with Rosemary. Do you have any committee member comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Francesca, do you have any committee member comments? If you do, let us know. Dean? Vicky?
No comments.
Ms. Brannaman?
Done with commenting. Thank you.
Michael?
Maybe you'll get to it, but yeah, just remind us, keep us up to date on upcoming. Sanitary district is sponsoring, whether there are opportunities for CAC members. Activities are coming up and we're supportive of them. Maybe it's cleanup day coming up. So, and then I appreciate the follow-up call today on a customer request that I submitted regarding the trucks leaking. Whatever fluid is coming out, it's occurred multiple times, and I don't know what other things can be done. Obviously, the issue is you have whatever is in there compressed from the morning, and then when they come late, starts to leak. Whether it's public road or then for us it's private road driveways, which that we're responsible for. Be up there if it doesn't get cleaned up. So appreciate that, but hopefully soon look for ways to mitigate that further. But
I have a few things, but I'll be quick. Promise. Nobody sent out a survey to all the CAC members. And we still have some members that have not completed that. If you did not receive it and you need to have it sent to you again, please let staff know it was specifically for the CAC, and the survey was supposed to close on the 15th, but they didn't get enough responses. So please respond. It's still open. We need that information from you. Just a reminder that we are required to attend all these meetings unless we have a conflict, at which point we need to you can either let one of us know, or you can let staff know that you aren't going to be in attendance for a meeting. 3 unexcused absences for a meeting where we don't hear from anybody. And we're actually going to talk about that tonight. I imagine the best course of action would be to refer it to the board and have the board make a determination on whether somebody should be removed based on excused absences or not responding to emails. Everybody is also required to attend at least one board meeting or study session in the course of the year that you are on the CAC. If you have not done that yet, please take a look at the calendar and figure out when you'll be able to attend. There's morning meetings, there's evening meetings, there's a little something for everybody, but please make sure that you do that. Michael touched on the upcoming events. If we could, going forward, have a line item, maybe right before member comments, that is the calendar of what's coming up. And maybe it's something we can just talk about briefly to let everybody know what's coming. And then if we need volunteers or we need representation from the CAC, if anybody is interested, it'll give them a little bit more time to plan for that, as opposed to today's the 13th, the coastal cleanup is 10 days away. Hopefully some people can participate or attend, but that might not be enough time. So we can keep everybody on their toes, since we don't meet very often. And then if we could get, I don't know if they're still available, but if we could get the iPads back for the meetings so we can kind of follow along and click on things, I think it speeds the process up if we have questions on a specific item, because I kind of hog the book. And then the last thing, I just wanted to compliment staff on the stickers that you created for the different carts. I had a chance to see them tonight. If you haven't seen them, take a look at the carts out in the lobby. And they really, really have done an excellent job getting your attention with the sticker, with the colors that they use, but the information that they provide literally is idiot proof. So all we have to do is encourage people to read the stickers and they'll know exactly what goes in each cart. And I think that's fantastic. Rosemary?
Have the stickers already been mass produced?
I don't know. I don't know. We can find out. Do you have a concern with the stickers?
Or a suggestion?
Oh, I always have some suggestions, but
I love
I
that
know.
about you.
Well, I just know that there's a lot that goes into these stickers, images over text, and exactly what types of images. It's such a subtle conversation. So I've really spent a lot of time looking at these. So if they haven't been mass produced, I would love to take a peek at them. If not, I can see them in the future. That's all, just offering some input. Thank you.
Thank you. Nolani?
Yes, Committee Member Chora, the stickers that we have were produced by CRNR. So they are consistent with all the other cards that CRNR has available. So to answer your question, yes, they were mass produced and they are available.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's it for comments. No, I think that's all we have actually. President Schaefer? You have 2 cents you want to throw in? Anyone else? It could be $1 too.
Madam Chair, yes, I do have comments. So to answer your question, we do have a couple of events coming up. We did just approve, or the board approved yesterday, the sponsorship of the Coastal Cleanup Day. And so the district will be participating in that event. There will be a sign up available on Eventbrite for the district. So if you would like to be part of the district team to go and help clean up the Back Bay, we will be out there that day. There is also the Eco Expo that I had sent an email out to the CAC for those who would like to participate. It will be on Wednesday, November 1st, from 3 to 7 p.m. Similar layout to what it was last year, but we are also inviting other agencies or groups to partner with us. So we'll have some really cool stuff going on.
Excellent. Thank you.
So that's November 1st. So if you'd like to participate and volunteer, we'd love to have the assistance and just let me know.
And if you're able to volunteer for maybe just an hour, that's totally acceptable. You don't have to volunteer for the entire duration of the event, which is
Right.
nice.
And then one more thing, in the month of November, the district would like to express its gratitude to the CAC and have a thank you Thanksgiving dinner of sorts earlier on in November. I will throw out some dates to the CAC and take a survey and see what date looks good. And then we will take it from there.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess that wraps it up. I would like to adjourn the meeting, 7:04 PM. And our next meeting, I believe it's November 8th. So we'll see you there, hopefully. If you can't come, please let somebody know. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night all.
Night.